Alrighty, and here I'm wanting to show off some of the new tools that I've picked up over the last month or so. I'm getting heavily into the converting side of things. I'm going to be doing quite a lot of vehicle work and so on. So I just needed a few more tools to make the job a little bit easier, as well as improve my sculpting and stuff. So this first piece, I only got it in yesterday, and I have to say I absolutely love it. So what it is a little mounting bracket for when you're cutting, and you can set it at a specific length and lock it in place so that each piece you're cutting is going to come out at exactly the same length, which is something I've found really useful already in replacing some of the barrels for some weapons that I've been working on. So while I do love Forge World's products, they have a tendency of giving quite warped barrels, and although you can straighten them out with hot water and then straighten them out and cool them back down again, I prefer to actually replace them with either brass rod or brass tube. But the problem I'd had in the past was getting the length exactly right, so everything lined up was a little bit tricky. So this wee doohickey, I'll call it, is fantastic, because you just pop your tube into the groove here, and then I cut along this front edge here. So you need to allow for the width of your saw when you're cutting. But the reason why I cut it there is so that I can then file down and get a perfect straight edge on the next piece, so that the next one's going to be cut perfectly straight as well. I'm not sure what this little bracket is called. I picked it up from a Chinese site I get quite a lot of my stuff from, because my partner's Chinese, so I can't translate what it is, but it is a very useful little thing, and if you can pick one up from your hardware store or from a model shop, I definitely recommend it. So just to show you the difference between using the cutting bracket and not, these first assault cannons were the ones I did using brass rod and just sort of cutting by eye, and then getting everything sort of lining up and filing them down. So as you can see, some of the lengths aren't quite perfect, which means when I've sort of gone to drill the holes and put everything in together, you've got some of the barrels are on a slight angle to each other. You see it on that first one, and more noticeably on this one here. There's one barrel especially which has kind of gone out of position, which is slightly annoying, but the resin ones I got with the weapon were way warped, and I wouldn't have been able to get as good a finish as I did on these ones. But then here with the autocannon, again, I've cut out the plastic barrel and replaced it with some brass tubing this time, and using the bracket I managed to get a perfect length cut and get everything nice and square, so they sit square. There's no angle to the guns. They all line up really nicely, and I wouldn't have been able to do that cutting by eye, or probably would have taken me a lot longer. So the bracket's definitely a useful tool. And I've also started using some clay shapers. Now, while I do have a set of sculpting tools of about 15 different tools in there, these ones are probably the ones I use the most. Now, the great thing about the clay shapers, because they're flexible, they give you a really smooth finish on your green stuff. Whereas when you're trying to get a smooth flat finish with a metal tool, you'll push it and leave indents and stuff like that. These tools, when they're wet, you can just kind of roll them across and they'll give a perfect flat finish. The only thing you can't really use them for is if you're wanting a sharp edge on the end of a piece of green stuff. You need that metal tool to get that sharp edge, because these will tend to round off the edges a little bit. But for the likes of doing Space Marine armor, to do a flat edge, I tend to just press down and just roll along and smooth everything out. If you're working on flat panels or joins on vehicles and stuff like that, use the chisel tip and then just smooth and just go like that, and it will really give you a great finish. And then these wee things, which look like little pieces of fruit roll-up, are actually fur texture plates for sculpting. So I got these from Mask Mini. It's a German guy who has some really good sculpting tools. He's got a great sort of tube and cable tool that I'll do a video of in the future once I work out how to use it properly. I've been playing around with it, but it still needs a bit of work. But these texture plates, and then he's also got some feather texture plates as well, are fantastic. So on it is just a good fur texture, and then you just press this into your green stuff. There's 3 different sizes of fur. There's the biggest one, a small one, and then a really light one, which is good for sort of clothing and stuff like that. So they're really easy to use. I'll probably actually be cutting them down a little bit just so I've got some sharper edges or some rounder edges just to get into the nooks and crannies. I found the square shape was a little bit tough on some of the stuff I was trying to do. But as you can see from the cloak I've been working on for Angron, if I can get my camera to focus in, it gives a really nice texture, and you can build up layers just by sculpting one layer first and then putting a new piece of green stuff on top and then pressing down again, and you can have them blend in quite well. So as you can see, I've managed to get it going over top of the chains and stuff like that, so it looks as though the fur and the chains are kind of overlapping and things. Now this is something which, if you did it without a texture plate by hand, it would take absolutely forever. And wouldn't come out looking as nice as it does. So I definitely like these tools. They're speeding up my sculpting a lot and giving some great results. So when I'm starting to work on my Undead army, I'll definitely be using them for a lot of things, and I'm going to start incorporating them into some of the World Eaters as well. So cheers for watching, guys. There's just a few of the tools that I've been using recently, and as I find new things to play with, I will let you guys know how they all turn out.